Welcome back to Gaming Top Down. Today we're going to be taking a look at Fractured Sky. This is a hidden information, deduction, bluffing game from Ivy Studios. Very pretty game, comes in a big box with lots of pretty components. I've played it quite a few times now, so we're going to head over to the table. I'll show you how the game plays, run through my review framework, and then we'll come back up top and I will tell you what I thought of Fractured Sky. Okay, this section I think will be very short today. I usually go over how I store the game, but this game comes with a pretty elaborate set of inserts and trays that basically give it one way to be stored. You got the instruction booklet, this tray for the private starfall and objectives, and then two big trays that hold all of the miniatures for each player in the 5 different colors. Those are the smaller buildings, and then this big tray has the rest of the smaller buildings, the player ships, and the magnet troop pieces, and then just some cubes for tracking different resources and other tracks. While we're here, I guess I'll just briefly show you my favorite component of the game, and those are the player ships. They are your 3 main workers that you will be placing out, but you don't place them out by themselves. They have a magnet on the bottom, and you'll place them out with a token on the bottom to symbolize how many troops you are putting in an area. And those are these magnet tokens over here. And so you have those from value 0 to 12. And behind your player shield, you'll put one of those on there like that, and then it will go out on the board. And since they magnet together, keeps everything organized, can't really be tipped over, so that hidden information stays hidden. Those, I think, elevate the kind of the hidden information part of this game, and that reveal at the end of the round when you do take it off is a fun moment. So that is my favorite component of this game. I usually go for the retail version of games, but I do think the components in this one kind of elevate the experience. Kind of slight spoilers there for later in the review. Okay, after that, there were some player artwork pieces here. Again, if you want to see a full unboxing of this game, I've done an unboxing on the channel where I go over all of these pieces in more detail. You got the player shields that go over the player trays, some promotional material from Ivy Studios, the game board, and then underneath the game board are the 5 player trays. They just kind of stack together like that, which is really nice. Underneath that are the cards and tokens for playing solo. So I haven't used those yet. I haven't tried the solo mode in the game yet. And then a couple of wells for cards. These are the player aid and objective cards. And these are the public and private starfall cards. They come in regular cards and these really thick lenticular effect cards. That might be a little hard to see on camera, but they do have a bit of a lenticular effect when you look at those. And they're very thick plastic, so those are cool. And then there is a spot here to hold any of the other tokens. This is the pin that came with the Kickstarter version of the game. Cool pin of that kind of octopus character that is on the cover but isn't really mentioned unless you read the flavor text paragraph at the beginning of the game. And then the tokens that are the victory points for this game are these starfall pieces, either in plastic or they have metal versions as well. All right, that is how I store the game and my favorite component. So let's spend a few minutes here setting it up, and I will be right back to show you how to play, at least a quick overview of how to play Fractured Sky. All right, so I've got the game set up here with only my green players components, kind of as if the second round was about to start. In this game, you win the game if at the end of the game you have the most of these starfall pieces. They're these really fancy looking kind of, yeah, pieces of star, I guess. They will be either plastic or metal, depending on which version of the game you get. And how do you get those? At the beginning of each round, one of these red public starfall cards will be flipped over, and a starfall will be placed in that location on the board. The board has 10 different floating island locations with these names that are all alliterations: Peaceful Plains, Wayward Wood, Creepy Cove, etc. And then there are these hexagon spaces in between and connected to those islands that we'll get to in a minute. So we know at the end of the round, someone will win this starfall if they win Creepy Cove, kind of the battle that will go on there. There are also 2 hidden starfall over here on the right in these blue cards. Since it's the second round, there are 2 in the third, fourth, and fifth round. There will be an escalating number of hidden starfall. And there's also a private objective that will earn someone a starfall at the end of the round. So on your turn, you can do a few different things. I can pay resources to place out one of my buildings or this skimmer ship. Really quickly, I just want to give a shout out to the player boards. They keep track of your gold, stone, and wood resources over here and have a place for everything. And then your troop tokens that are here in the back range in value from 0 to 10, and they will be hidden behind your player shield like this. So only you can see which value of troops you have put out. I'm going to leave that off so that you can see everything as I'm talking about it here, but know that that would be on there kind of by default. Okay, so on my turn, I've got a few different things. I probably want to know what the objective card is going to be at the end of this round. I want to hopefully peek at one or both of these starfall cards, and I don't have any buildings out, so I probably want to do that as well. Let's spend our first turn here. We're going to spend 2 of any resource. We're going to spend 2 stone to peek at this objective card. When we do that, we can see this one is have the most buildings connected to the woeful wetlands, which is, oh, not that one. It's this one down here. So any buildings connected by these lines would count for that. Since I've peeked at that, I'm going to put one of my cubes here in this spot. This isn't a memory game, so you don't have to memorize everything you've peeked at. I could peek again at that at any time now. Okay, that was my turn. It would go on to around the table to whoever's next. When it gets back to me, I now know I want to probably have a building connected here. And I have been maybe wanting to build a market. They help you get more resources, so you have a little more flexibility. So let's do that. Let's spend a gold and 2 wood to put out a market. And we are going to put it right here so that it's connected to the woeful wetlands. All right, it would go around again. Back to me. I probably want to spend my last 2 gold to peek at one of the private starfall cards. To do that costs exactly 2 gold. So I'm going to take 2 gold off, and we'll peek at this one here. Ooh, and I would do this in secret, but since you're the only one here with me, you can look along. This one is also at Creepy Cove. So we know here at the end of this round, there's going to be not just 1, but 2 starfall at that location. When you peek at one of those, you get to put one of your cubes in one of these 3 resource spots and take one of the resources from that location. It's also denoted here on the card. I could take a gold or a stone. If I do so, I'm giving my opponents a little bit of information, though. I probably want the gold, but now my opponents know whatever I peeked at had a gold at the location, so they know it wasn't here, wasn't here, wasn't here, or here. So I've given them some information at what I peaked at, but I did get some gold back. Okay, so play would continue. When it gets back to me, I'm out basically of enough resources to build any buildings, put out a skimmer, or to peek at this last private Starfall card. And so I'm going to have to start putting out troops. In the round, you can put out a total of 10 troop strength. And I have tokens ranging from 0 to 10. So between my 3 ships, I can have a total of 10. Since I know that Creepy Cove has 2 of those Starfall, and I'm going to want to heavily go after that location, maybe I want to fake out my opponents and bluff a little bit first. So let's take one here, and we'll put a 1 under it. The 1 and the 10 both have a white border instead of black, so my opponents will be able to see that I'm placing a white bordered piece out. So they might think I'm placing a 10 here at Dreadful Desert. The reason I place it at Dreadful Desert is because Dreadful Desert also has gold, which I kind of gave them that information by taking a gold earlier, so they might think what I peaked at was Dreadful Desert, even though I know what I actually saw was Creepy Cove. So by placing that 1 there, I might trick some of my opponents out. Since I was the first player to play a card at a location, or not a card, a ship at a location, I'll get to take the topmost card from this blue private Starfall deck and look at it in secret. And now I know that Frosty Fjord up here does not have one of the private Starfall at it, since there's only 1 of each card in that deck. So I'll keep that next to me face down, and then play would continue. When it gets back to me, maybe I'm going to play a 0 just to be ultra sneaky, and we're going to throw that 0 out. We will throw it in Frosty Fjord so that anyone that happened to follow me there would not win likely anything. And then when it got back around to me for my last turn, I can't place a 10 since I already placed a 1, but I could place a strength 9 here at Creepy Cove. Once you play your last ship, you'll take your player turn marker down here and place it on whichever free turn order spot you would like. So maybe I want to go first next round, or maybe I want an extra gold, and I don't care if I go 4th next round. Okay, play would continue with the other players until everyone has placed their 3 ships out. Then we'll flip over the private Starfall cards. We got Wayward Wood was that one we didn't get to look at. And this one is Creepy Cove, so we'll take 2 Starfall, put 1 at Wayward Wood, 1 at Creepy Cove, and we'll flip over this one, which we know is have the most buildings connected to the woeful wetlands down here. Let's just assume that I had happened to win that one since I peeked at it before I looked at that market card, or before I built the market. Okay, now is kind of the fun, exciting part. Everyone will kind of one location at a time reveal how many troops they put there. If you put the most troops at a location, then you will win any Starfall that are listed there. If there are none, or if you win second place, you'll get both resources listed at the location. The next would get 1 resource, and the 4th place player would get nothing. And so that reveal is really fun, of taking your ships off to show how many troops you have there. I obviously put a 0 here at Frosty Fjord, so I'm not going to get anything there, not even the resources. You cannot win anything good with a 0 other than, bluffing a bit. And then hopefully with my 9 here at Creepy Cove played late in the round, I was able to win both of the Starfall here. Okay, so that was a pretty good example of a round of play. We would then shuffle these private Starfall cards back into this deck, taking these cubes off, put 3 in for the next round, flip over a new red public Starfall card, take all of our ships and troop tokens back, leaving our buildings on the board, and continue into round number 3. My favorite part of playing this game is probably anything to do with these player ships. The magnet on the bottom, I feel like really helps elevate the hidden information of keeping your troops secret, because you know that that's, even if it gets bumped, it's not going to slide off. And it's a fun moment when you, behind your shield, kind of clink one of them together like that, and then place it somewhere. And the minis aren't huge, but they're just big enough to have some fun table presence until that big reveal, which is usually a very fun moment to see, oh, you were bluffing, or you weren't, and you sent a 10 there. That is the best part of this game, in my opinion. Okay, so now that you kind of understand how the game works, again, not a full rules teach, but just an overview, let's go into my review. And I use the David's framework here, and the first portion of that is duration, or the length of the game. I think the duration of the game is just about perfect. It says 40 to 90 minutes on the box. Most of my plays have been around 90. And I think if it was any longer, it would outstay its welcome just a little bit. But it's just about perfect. It ends right when you feel like it should. So really no complaints about the duration of the game. There are maybe some times when somebody can take a little too long on their turn, but I feel like in this game you're more prone not to do that because of the hidden information. You don't know everything. So since you can't know everything, you kind of just have to choose a strategy, go with your gut, and just kind of play quickly by the seat of your pants. Not too fast, but I think that the game does kind of push itself along in that way. So solid duration, in my opinion. For the aesthetic, I think the game is very, very pretty. The board is really nice, has these nice, like, kind of shiny portions. I don't know what those are called, but they look really nice. And the artwork is really good and colorful. It does kind of, get out of the way just enough where it's really just about the 10 locations. I think the only bit of artwork that I don't really care for are the characters on the player shields. They're just kind of like, they look like computer generated Pixar characters a little bit, but after you put the shield on, you basically never look at them again. So it's not really a negative. It's just, I think that that's probably the most forgettable part of the aesthetic experience of this game. Everything else is incredibly high quality. I think that the components really help with how the game plays and the usability, making everything pretty smooth. This tray, for example, is just a plastic tray with a cardboard topper on it, but just having it here to keep all of the objective cards where they should be, as kind of a round tracker as well, and a visual way to see what everyone has peeked at, is just such a smart idea. Instead of just having a deck of objective cards or starfall cards off to the side, great idea to visually represent it here, and it keeps everything organized. And I would say that about the player boards as well, player trays, excuse me. They're not like the highest quality, even though they're great. It's just a plastic tray with a cardboard kind of topper. Again, has that, I don't know what that is, UV spotting or kind of shiny portion on there, but just having everything in its proper place keeps the game from getting, too complex, because you have 15 little building miniatures here and 3 big ones, and then 12 troop pieces and 3 resources to track and your points to track. So there's a lot kind of to keep track of on your board, but since it's so just accessible and organized right in front of you, and you can see what your opponent across the table has very quickly, it just helps the gameplay be very smooth. I think that in the retail version, there's obviously no miniatures. I believe that all of these pieces, including these, are just cardboard tokens. And I do feel like you could probably have a great gameplay experience with that. You just set the tokens upside down, I believe, and then when you do the reveal, you flip them over. But I feel like having a spot that is dual layered to track my resources putting out a piece here that shows I put some troops there, having them be, plastic and clink together and stick really nice. I know this isn't going to get flipped over a weird way and reveal that secret information, and having this tray over here that organizes everything really well. I think the production really helps the gameplay. So for aesthetics and production, just stellar job here. I think the only negative I would give it is that since it does look so nice, the game is kind of pricey. It's kind of a big box. There's a ton, like I said, there's 15 of these little miniatures per player, and it plays up to 5 players. Then you got 3 of these big ones and 12 of these per player, and then 12 of these cubes per player. You saw in the how I store the game portion that there's a lot in the box, so it's kind of expensive. This version of the game is the deluxe version that doesn't come with the pre-painted minis. It was like $50 more or something to have the minis all pre-painted, which do look really nice. But I kind of went for what version do I think will give the best gameplay experience, also look good on the table, but isn't a $200 game. So I think the game can be a little cost prohibitive that way. So make sure that finish watching this review and probably others to make sure that this is a game that will hit with your group, so that if you're spending $120 on a version like this, that it's something you're going to really enjoy and love. Because I think that the deluxe components in this game especially really kind of elevate the experience. Okay, for variability, I think it does a really good job. Most of the variability comes from the different board state, from different places that markets and fortresses will be built from game to game, and then which objective cards will come out. There is quite a stack of them. I would say there's probably 30 to 40 objective cards in the game. And then what order will the private Starfall cards come out in? And so from game to game, you can kind of have control of like one corner of the board, and my opponent was more powerful in a different spot, and did that help us or not? I think there is good variability in the game, but I think that a lot of the variability comes from the people that you are playing with and kind of trying to read them. I think every person I've played with has tried kind of a different strategy, and some people are much more into bluffing and lying almost the entire time, trying to get points, and some people play it way more safe. And since there's quite a range there, a lot, like I said, a lot of the variability comes from the people you're playing with. So very high score in variability. In innovative, this isn't a new genre by any means that they've created here, but I do think the kind of combination of bluffing, hidden information, a little bit of resource management paired with like really nice premium components that help that gameplay, I think this feels very unique and fresh for this genre. So I would give this a very high score for innovation. And then the decision space. Does the game play itself? I think there are a lot of decisions to make. Since you don't have all of the information, a lot of things are hidden from you and only the other players will know. You kind of just have to go with your gut, choose a strategy, and roll with it, which is good. I feel like the game, I think I already said this, kind of pushes you forward as opposed to a perfect information game where you can math out everything to min-max it, and those turns can sometimes take too long. The only potential negative I see here is that if in a round, for example, I had 2 gold and 2 stone, and I hadn't placed my ships out, I have seen almost every player I've played with employ kind of the same strategy. If I can be the last one to put my troops out, I've got a little bit of an advantage because I can see where everyone else sent their troops. And so most people will start by spending all or most of their resources first. So I use these 2 gold to peek at a Starfall card, then use these 2 stone to peek at an objective card, and then once I'm forced to, because I have nothing else I can do, is when I will start putting troops out with my ships. So that portion can be a little bit predictable. I can look across the table and see, oh, he has a lot more resources than me. He's probably going to be placing ships out later in the round than I will. Doesn't always work out that way, but that has been a little bit of a predictable pattern. But other than that, I think there's a lot of good decisions to be made and a lot of kind of table talk and trying to read the other people that you're playing with. Okay, last up for smoothness and complexity. I think the game sits at just kind of a perfect combination. It's not an overly complex game, but it's not so simple to be boring and play itself. There is a little bit going on, but like I already mentioned, the components keep everything in such an organized state that it's pretty easy to not get confused. You have a couple of helpful player aid cards that tell you what you can do on your turn, how much it costs to scout and peek, that you can trade resources, how much your markets, fortresses, and skimmers cost, which is also printed on the player board, what you'll win if you win the battles. So the player aid cards are really good. And again, just can't give enough props to the player trays that keep everything organized so you know exactly how many resources you have, how many turns each player still has with their big ships. Just the organization of this game, I think, really helps it be smoother than it would have been if it didn't have these pieces. And that's why I opted for a slightly more premium and deluxe version than just the standard cardboard version. So for complexity and smoothness ratio, I think this is a very, very valiant effort here. Okay, that's going to do it for my David's framework. Let's hop back up top and I will give you my final verdict on Fractured Sky. Okay, that was a look at Fractured Sky. For my final verdict, I really like this game. I think there are a couple negatives just to think about if you're thinking about buying this game. Really make sure that it's one that will jive with you and the people that you play with. It's pretty unique. I don't play a lot of deduction games like that. I'm more of a strictly Euro gamer almost, or with people that don't play a lot of games, I play a lot of lighter games. So yeah, this is a genre that was a little foreign to me, but I, after reading the rule book, kind of took a swing on it, and I think it's really great. It's pretty unique in my opinion, kind of the melding of the cool components that help keep everything organized so that nobody gets lost. I think it does a really good job. Since there's a lot in the box, lots of miniatures and pieces, it is a little bit expensive, and so I think it can be a little cost prohibitive to people. I didn't even get the most expensive version of the game. And so if you're looking at it from a value proposition, just make sure that it's going to be something that you plan on playing, many times. And if it is, I think you'll really, really enjoy it. The only other negative is that I think you have to be okay with a bit of luck in your games. Since there is some information that you just don't know, you're going to sometimes make dumb decisions, and sometimes you're going to luck into some really good decisions. Even in that example I did in the demo, if I had reversed the order and not looked at the objective card before I built that market, but just happened to build it there, then I might have won that objective even if I didn't peek at it. And so I have seen a couple scenarios where someone got lucky and got a point or two. And when you're only scoring, 6 to 8 points kind of on the high end in the entire game, having a point or two kind of lucking into them can be a kind of swingy in that way. But if you're okay with that, it's a really good time. I laughed a lot in this game, and it's one, again, I've said this a couple times, where you're kind of just trying to read your opponents, and it's really a good time when you reveal your troops, and it's just fun all the way through. Really, really enjoy Fractured Sky. For those reasons, I'm going to be giving it an 8.5, which is a gold trophy here on Gaming Top Down. Thanks so much for watching this review. If you like this content, please make sure to like this video, subscribe if you want to see my other videos when they come out. I do other reviews and unboxings for other board games. As you can see, I really like board games, so when I'm able to, I try to make as much content as I can. Make sure you also join our giveaway that we're doing here in June 2024 doing a giveaway for either a copy of Orichalcum, which I believe is right here on the shelf behind me. Yeah, a really fun kind of race game where you're trying to find a new Atlantis, or we're giving a gift card if somebody doesn't want that game. So yeah, make sure to join that giveaway at the link in the description below, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.